Questioning Everything with Garrett and Adam.
Just one moment before we get started here. Today's guest is our first guest on the Questioning Everything podcast, and she does deserve an introduction. She's somebody that I've known for a very long time. I met her in my teens at some point. I met her as Debra Lee Halinda, and she was previously known as Debra Lee Halowski, and also known as the musician Thistle. We met before I even met Garrett, a few years prior, when I was a musician playing local pubs and coffee shops and stuff like that, even before I was allowed to drink. And she was also a musician, and it was actually through her friendship that I met her daughter, and we dated for a while, but that's a different thing. Deb's been a close friend of both Garrett and I for a long time, and Garrett and I are like brothers from another mother, and Deb would be that mother. She was really more of a friend for me than a parent figure, but at the same time, the bond that we all had was very much familial. And she 5 years ago was diagnosed with cancer, and she's been a trooper, and she's been powering through it, and we wanted a chance to talk to her on the podcast, to find out what the experience has been like. And we do get derailed. We got a lot of things to talk about. We haven't seen each other for years, but at any rate, without further ado, I would like to welcome you to the world of Debra Lee Banford, previously known as Debra Lee Halinda, and the musician Thistle.
Episode 7.
So, welcome to the Questioning
Everything
podcast with
Garrett
and Adam. And today we have a special guest,
Deb Banford.
She was our second mom. We were raised by Deb as little wolf puppies.
Yeah, we both banged one of her daughters.
Let's make it clear they did not come out of me.
Or into.
We both banged.
They were with my daughters.
Adam. Right off. Now I can actually hear them all.
You were Beth's first boyfriend.
Was I?
You and Beth were very young, yes. 14 and 15, I think.
Man, if my
Was it
daughter was
that
dating
young?
Garrett.
Yes, you were. You were hiding in her closet when I caught you, Garrett.
That's true. In women's clothing.
Adam was hitchhiking around town in a sarong, which was great.
We were hippie kids.
Yeah.
Hippies.
Hippie
That's
boys.
crazy. So yeah.
Adam was your pack leader.
At the time when we were all like in the cult. That's correct.
Yep.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's to put that in context.
Yes.
I thought it would be a pretty awesome first guest.
Thank you.
Right?
Oh, absolutely.
And why do you know me? Because I was a musician for many years. Played lots of music. Wrote
That's
lots
how we
of
met.
music.
We met at the Billy Miner.
We
or something
did.
At first.
We did. What was the little kid you hung out with? Darius Watkins.
What were you forgot?
Yeah,
his name?
Darius
Wow.
and Adam, and they had a band, and Adam had this great song. Oh, I can't remember, but there was one song, "Drink Your Bloody Piss." What was that one?
Oh,
It was
Into the Abyss.
Yes, it was so good.
Into the Abyss.
I know, and
it's a good song.
Yeah, it is a good song. It's a really
you
good
have
song.
some really good songs.
Yeah, he does.
That was the thing, like and then I ended up going. I met you guys because I went to a foster home there. Went to high school with a bunch of people that knew Beth and Molly, and one of the coolest things about Maple Ridge was that we had the gazebo. So we'd skip school and go up to the gazebo, and it was literally Dazed and Confused the movie, essentially, but without the muscle cars, really.
Yeah.
And we'd go up there and everybody, all the hippies would be up there playing guitar, hanging out. And I can't remember, I know I met Mike Staines first. So when I went to high school with there.
Yeah.
And then I introduced slowly to everybody.
Yeah, last names.
Mike.
Yeah, whatever.
Stanley.
He probably won't sue us, but we try not to.
Does he want to know you?
No, he's unfriended me, I think. Which is probably for the best, because my shins are still dented from that guy. Thanks, by the way.
He dented your shins?
Oh, he used to kick me in the shins all the time. I got picked on heavily.
That guy?
Needless to say, you have a long history.
Yeah. Anyway, but it was.
I've known you for a long time.
But it was but my point being is that even right now, lately, I've been really going over a lot of my past because I was on a podcast talking about my past, and there's like, I'm just kind of, from my own healing journey currently, I'm really reliving a lot of things. And that time with you and with Beth and Molly and your daughters and all those people in that time, it was magical in my opinion. It was
a lot of good music.
Extremely good music.
Yeah.
Everyone was playing guitar.
Yeah.
Everyone was doing art. Everyone was doing something really. There wasn't a lot of smartphones or video games, and it was just a really special time.
We actually talked to each other.
Yeah. It was cool. Maple Ridge at the gazebo, they've changed it all now, but
Yeah.
looking back, I'm just like, what happened? Like, I mean, I went into the alcohol coma and popped out a couple months ago. But
It was a strange day. It was a different day. It was
good.
pre-meth pandemic. So
Absolutely. It was a
Right.
pre-meth time.
We
So
could-
it was an easier time to be on the street, to be around.
Yeah.
It wasn't as threatening at all.
And nobody assumed
Even
that
to
you
be
were a drug
homeless, it
addict.
wasn't as
and it's
threatening.
funny
yeah.
you say that too, because that is true. Because I'm delivering pizzas currently in Maple Ridge, and there's a lot of homeless people out there, especially late at night when I shut down at 11 and I'm in the park, because the pizza place is right beside the old park part of it, and there's homeless people everywhere. People
Yeah.
falling asleep like right there. It wasn't that bad back then. Like,
No, not even close.
Yeah.
There was,
do you remember Robert?
of course. Yeah.
Eesh, I went by.
Yeah, I lived with him. I lived in his shed.
And then do you remember Rick James or Rick?
Rick
Yeah, yeah.
Benoit, Ricky James.
Yeah, they're not gonna. Anyway, remember his buddy Donald?
Of course.
Yeah,
he still,
Don.
He still comes in to Jim's Pizza.
He was a
really?
big zombie
He still
guy.
comes into Jim's
Yeah.
Pizza.
Oh, I
looking for-
used to fuck with that guy so hard.
Holy,
Fuck
Don.
with
we
him
should
so
have.
hard.
I'd love to have Jim Benoit.
When he called the cops on me a couple times. and-
Really?
Yeah, it was the only reason I really fucked with him, but I'd really fuck with him. Like taping up a box and saying, "Do not open," and leaving it on his kitchen table, and then just going. Me and Rick would go out for a couple
Adam.
days and go gallivant.
and you'd come back and it was wide open.
Well, no, he wouldn't be able to open it because you can't open it.
Yeah, it says do not open.
So he'd be like, "What's in the box?"
Oh,
Yeah. He'd go
pace
mental.
around the box for days. Yeah.
Wearing tracks on the floor, probably.
Oh,
Yeah.
really, Donald?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Or I taped his bedroom door with like police do not enter tape.
He couldn't go in.
No, he wouldn't be able
You
to go in.
tortured him.
I tortured him.
Yeah.
But he tried to pull a sword on
And
me
yet
at
you were
one
so
point,
gentle
and-
with cats. You only
Yeah.
tortured people. You were
Yeah.
never cruel to
Well,
animals.
he kind of asked for it.
Yeah.
He was a strange duck, and I didn't necessarily mind him. And I don't go out of my way to pick on people, but I'm kind of a animal, and you don't put your hand in an animal's mouth.
That's right.
And he kind of put his hand in my mouth, and he got a bit bit.
Yeah.
I didn't bite him hard because he's not capable of understanding that he's doing what he's doing. Like he's not doing the right thing, but he's not there.
He doesn't know, yeah.
No, he's
So-
like he's like a child.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Still, right?
But when
And
you're
he's
just a
definitely
troll-
over medicated. I mean, the guy's drooling
Oh,
all the
there's
time.
a brutal
Brutally,
podcast
yeah.
right there. Man.
As
Yeah.
far as trolling him goes, it was all fair game.
Yeah.
And I never hurt him. I wouldn't physically assault him or something.
And he was a very large, imposing man. He looked threatening, just seeing him walking around. You know what I mean?
yeah.
He was a big guy, and he kind of had a stern look on his face all the time.
Yeah, he reminded me of like Texas Chainsaw Massacre or something.
Like
he looked-
that family.
Yeah,
yes.
Now he's got a walker and he's like just.
Oh,
slow.
really?
Oh yeah.
Well, bless him.
Donald.
Yeah.
What's up?
Cool, he's still alive.
Yeah.
He doesn't look that bad either.
Yeah.
Like, but I mean, here's another thing too. I run into people like I'll see them on Facebook or just it's funny the amount of people you forget from those days too. Like, oh yeah, you. I remember. Like, man, oh man.
Yeah.
Some people too are unidentifiable. Like the Witch of Endor. I don't know if you remember her. Do you know who I'm talking about?
I
Just
don't.
saying that?
I don't.
She had short gray hair and like mascara tattooed around her eyes or something like that.
Okay. And she hung out at the witch?
No, I just called her the Witch of Endor
Okay.
because it was just my nickname for her. But she was like one of our
Uptown?
own. Yeah, one of our only beg people at the time. We had River Road Rita, the girl who'd walk
Okay,
around
yeah,
and do all the
yeah.
dancing on the highway, and
Yeah. Yeah.
Pete the bum, and then
Pete the bum, and he
and then
passed
her.
away too, right?
Okay.
this woman with the
Yeah,
mascara.
yeah.
Right? I don't know.
Yeah, shout
There's
out-
very few people.
Rest
Like when
in
I was
peace, Pete the bum.
sleeping on the ground outside in Maple Ridge in Vancouver and around, the whole thing, there was a lot less people. Maple Ridge had so few people at the food bank. I'd
Yeah.
go there every week, and there'd be like 22 people, the usual suspects, mostly families with kids, and there'd be a couple homeless people, but it really wasn't It wasn't like dozens and dozens
No,
and dozens.
now
and
it's
dozens and
lineups of people.
No, and they're bad.
It's
Like,
hours of
they're
people.
Yeah,
really,
10 cities
really
now.
sick people, like really, really sick, like really high on meth, really high on down. Like it's scary.
Well, it's also families with children because everything's so unaffordable now.
Oh, I know, right?
You know, the cost
Yeah.
of housing and
God.
food is
Insane.
And since COVID, it's skyrocketed more. You know, we're going to
Inflation.
have a food shortage.
Well, a lot of people are unemployed.
Yeah.
So
well, they're saying
Yeah.
that too. 2050.
anybody who's in the events industry or
Yeah.
in the restaurant industry or in the
And
there's
look-
so many industries that have been impacted.
And look what's happened with the food supply chain. So they've literally culled millions of cows, millions of chickens, millions of pigs in the US, in Canada. Milk supply is completely drained. Rice that was flooded out in China. Brazil didn't have the rice it was supposed to have. We're going to have major food shortages within the next 6 months. And one of the best ways to have a new reset is to starve people. Once they're starving, they do exactly what you tell them.
Right.
Like that,
That would suck.
yeah.
I don't want to deal with that.
Yeah, it's
Right.
it's part of the agenda. Like, how do you get rid of that many people off the earth? You have to starve them out at some point, and that's part of the plan.
I was watching a
starvation.
documentary yesterday saying that 2050, they expect there to be 9 billion people on the planet, and food production has to go up by 70% to feed that many.
Really?
And there's just and it's just like literally impossible.
Well,
But
they
I don't
want
know. I
they
don't
want
know what-
rid of meat by 2030.
They should have
But
to.
the problem isn't meat; it's factory farming. Like, we need
Yeah.
to get in order
I
what
agree
the
with
actual
that.
problems are. The problems are factory farming.
Beef.
All of this big culture of meat. If we go down to smaller farms and people can actually sell locally,
Right,
we need to make food more
exactly. Well, it's
regional. Stop
corporate.
shipping it around the world. Grow it in your own town. We could grow enough food in each town to feed everybody.
The problem is incentivizing stuff like that.
Yes.
Because
Right.
it's a good idea.
Nobody
but
wants
It'll
to
have
do
to
it.
get bred
that's
out.
just it. And so then we'd have to be communist and start saying, okay, you live here and you do these things.
And that's a problem too.
Obviously.
Because with communism, what's happened in Russia is 70% of the people who live in Russia live in super cities, in giant apartment buildings. And these are ghetto apartment blocks that are
Yeah,
miles
we have no
long.
idea, right? Like
There's
we really
no
don't.
rural
We live here, not
Russia.
there.
Very few people live there. So part of communist takeover is everyone gets herded in together.
'Cause you don't own anything either.
You don't own anything, so there's no more freedom. You don't get to go and be in your back 40. You don't get to go to have lunch at the river. You live in a super city and you fucking work all day. That's
that's slavery.
communist China.
So that's slavery.
That's what they're doing. Like, there's nothing good about it.
So essentially, but here's where I go with that, and I believe that that's probably reality because here in Vancouver, we aren't over there. We don't really know.
We're headed there.
unless you
Our
dig.
socialism
What
is
the
headed
point
there.
Of that, though? So
We've
what is the
lost our
point?
freedom of speech in 2018. They changed our laws.
But I mean, what is the point?
We have to use compelled speech now.
0% living on that top. Like, what's the end goal there for those people? Then they live on their pile of money, and that super cities are just slaves.
The end goal is to get rid of 80% of the population so that the 1% can live and about 15% take care of the planet. And it only takes about 20% of the population to actually take care of everything, to feed.
So we're
and-
slaves, and they live the great
And
life.
so they're considering the rest of us now chattel. There's too many of us. We've taken up too much room, too much space. We're obviously failing at being humane because
to each other.
Yes.
Yeah, that's
So they're looking at us as inhumans that need to be gotten rid of. So they feel that they are in a place where they're these very high beings and they are smarter than us, they have more money, they know more than us. So we are like lesser humans to them. So lesser humans need to die, need to go. They need to get rid of 80% of the population in their plan, in their new world order, in their new
It's
reset.
changed from New World Order to the Great Reset.
The Great Reset is the same thing. It's just
Yeah.
worded differently, and they're blatantly
I've
putting it
heard that.
right out to us.
I mean, John
Yeah.
Joseph.
Klaus Schwab looks like a supervillain. Like when
The
you
best-
listen to the guy speak.
The best way to reduce the population is to stop having population, right? Killing people's
They don't have to
one
kill
of
us.
the worst, right?
They don't have to kill us. They can starve us.
Well, that's just it. That's where that's where communism comes in. Is
Yeah.
if you can get the people to agree to communism,
Absolutely.
Good luck.
We're
can
headed
starve
there.
them.
The U.S. is
and
headed there.
That is just
Yeah.
kind of like the cost of doing business.
Yeah.
Is that
That's right.
These are the lives that had to be sacrificed
In order for this machine to
But
carry
the
on.
Fruition.
internet is a
Yeah.
double-edged sword. So I would say, there's half the people that want this, that would go along with this idea. They'd be like, oh, they're going to help us. Yeah.
course they do.
Take my passport and everything else. And then there's the rest of us that are like, yeah, we've been paying attention the whole time. So I don't think it would go over that easy.
Look at the mask mandate. Do you know how many people have been vaccinated and they're saying, I'm going to keep wearing a mask, and I suggest you do too. They would like masks to continue on for the rest of our lives because they're used to them now, and they've been brainwashed to
Yes.
believe that they'll only be safe with a mask on.
That's certain people. Though.
This is insidious business. Okay?
I'm not, and I.
It's really
There's
just
something
it's a
definitely nefarious.
It's
This
a
is-
great, no, it's not definitely nefarious. It's just a great something to study later, right?
Yeah.
I don't think everybody's on board with it.
They're not.
A lot of the people that I follow are just as aware of it as we are.
Of course, but if
And-
you look at the major parts of the population, like right now,
Absolutely.
the
but-
Marines won't get the vaccine in the U.S. They're like, we don't want it. So what they're saying, so they're kind of separating the country by saying, if you don't get the vaccine, you're right wing, which really bothers me because I've always been an anti-vaxxer and I've never been right wing. So I get pushed into this right wing area and called a Trump supporter because I actually don't support Biden and I don't support Kamala Harris and I don't support a lot of the people that they're trying to get into their administration because they're crooks and criminals. And so is Biden. So I'm like, I have a problem. I
That'd be a
can't
centrist
express an
position to make,
opinion
but-
Well, that's-
without being right or left, right?
Yeah.
So, and I am centrist. I
Didn't
don't
we say
believe in it,
that?
either of them.
We talked about that
Yeah.
a couple podcasts ago where we.
Yeah, and it's-
I'm actually a liberal, and
And
none of
it's-
them are.
Well, yeah, it's centricism and liberalism are. I mean,
Yeah.
The left has gotten so far left that they're actually off of the liberal scale.
They are off the liberal
They're,
stage.
They're
yeah.
no longer what we call liberalism.
No,
as
they're
far as-
progressives.
I mean, it's conservatives and liberals are all liberal because we
Absolutely.
live in a liberal idea of democracy.
That's
where
right.
You've got liberty,
Yeah.
literally freedom.
Freedom and freedom of speech.
Yeah, exactly. Freedom.
left is
the
against
ability
freedom
to
of
criticize
speech.
your government,
Yeah.
and absolutely they are.
And they used
If
to
you get
be
too far
for
left
it.
or too far right, you get into an authoritarian control system, and it really doesn't matter what you call it at that point. But what's interesting is that there seems to be this fog of war sort of thing that anytime something happens, we all experience it within the fog of war perspective, and then the fog kind of drifts, and we're like, "What the fuck just happened?
Yeah.
What the fuck just happened?" And I think that there's a lot more people asking themselves what the fuck just happened than are willing to admit it out loud
I would agree.
because of the social persecution of
Yes. You can't admit it out loud because you will be persecuted as
Yeah.
a right wing supporter. Yeah.
Yeah, that's.
Or an extreme leftist, one or the other.
I'm scared to post even any of this, and social media isn't the place to be having these discussions either. Like a podcast definitely is, right? And even now, I'm just like, nope. I almost went to go post something yesterday, just like about, oh, did you? I'm like, no, because it'll get 500 comments and 1 million, and
Yeah.
troll Adam here will get on there. But you know what I mean? I do believe that there's like social media is being used as a weapon to divide people too, and you call that it's like the new war, information war, where they're just trying to confuse the shit out of people by putting Pentagon's releasing videos on UFOs, the potato head gender thing. Let's get everyone
Absolutely.
fighting on social
Absolutely.
media.
It's
Propaganda.
also like they want to create a race war in the U.S. because that's also how you separate and divide a
That's another
country.
thing that blows my
They want the
Black
U.S.
Lives
to
Matter.
fall. Basically, the powers that be don't want a U.S. They can all break into small states and be their own little countries.
Well, they
like
just
Africa.
did that
It's
with the COVID.
competitor,
They
right?
completely just
Yeah.
proved that by with the way they've handled COVID.
Absolutely.
By each place is doing it, they're just like, we're doing what we're going to do. That's it. I mean, even Joe Rogan left California, went down to the
Well, that's reasonable though.
That's
I like
totally
that.
reasonable. California
that
is
part.
Yeah,
is
but
a
here's
bad
what's
place
crazy.
right
What's
now.
what's good about them is they get to separate
Each
their
other.
systems.
Yeah.
They're a union
But
of
we
states.
laughed in New York. I remember people laughing when this all started. Like, haha, look at New York, look at the states, they're dumpster fire, they didn't handle it. You know what just happened the other day in New York? They just had a live concert, metal show, pitting, everyone. No masks, nothing, mosh pits. In New York at I can't remember exactly what the day was.
Well, their own governor was responsible for 15,000 deaths of people in nursing homes, that he enforced nursing homes to take COVID patients, and tons of people died because of it. Cuomo's got to go.
Do you think that's crazy that they had
Cuomo's got to go.
Do you think that's crazy that they had a show?
I think it's right that they had a show. They've been locked down so
Like,
harshly.
people were pitting.
People have. Do you know that 45% of all business in San Francisco is closed? Forever.
Yeah.
Not due to
I haven't heard that stat.
Yeah.
That's a lot.
closed
I
forever.
think that I heard that a few times. And well, there's a lot of places that have.
San Fran though, like those places are.
It's a dumpster fire. It's
Yeah.
catering to the homeless and to the far left, and there's people that you can't walk down the street without stepping in human shit. It's crazy.
Yeah. It's gotten pretty bad, and it was always like that's one of the only cities that I've been in the States, and
Which one? Sorry.
San Francisco.
Francisco.
Oh, great. Yeah.
I was amazed at how much it smelled like feces.
That's right. And Los
And that was
Angeles is the same
pooping
now.
in the
This
pooping.
was
People are pooping in the streets.
Oh, yeah. All the
This
homeless.
is like 1997 though. Like this is before 2000, right? This is when I was 17 years old, hitchhiking through San Francisco down there, and it wasn't people pooping in the streets at that point. It was just their sewage system runs underneath the street, and the steam, like you see a movie and you see the steam in the street grate. It's literally smells like shit.
Wow.
Yikes.
Right. So being here from Vancouver, which is such a clean city, and
Bad
We're spoiled
infrastructure.
here, man.
our
We're so spoiled
urban
here.
centers are super clean. Everything here is clean. Down there, it was really gross. And then the dingy areas were dingier than anything that I'd ever experienced in my life. Like hardcore poverty, like
Yeah.
capital P.
Yeah.
Even growing up just on the cusp of Wally and Surrey.
Not
And
as bad.
Nowhere close.
No.
Not even our decrepit buildings that are old grow-ops and shit like that are still in way better shape than all these buildings in San Francisco, and it's just all like brown, like it's like a bombed out war zone. Old brown chip paint is everywhere. You brown.
Also in
is just-
Richmond, Virginia, man. Richmond, Virginia, I went there for a metal festival. It was mind-blowing. It was mind-blowing how many, you never, there's obviously quite a large black population. It was insane. It was massive amount of black people, right?
I didn't even know that.
Well, I mean, I was a little Canadian boy coming from Vancouver to go see a metal festival. Woohoo, Barbecue 2016. And I was like, whoa, culture shock. And like, we're taking the bus downtown, and it's like, oh, heritage freaking cotton farm building.
Oh, yeah.
Heritage. And the buildings are all fucking brown and brick, and it's like not like shiny glass metropolis like Vancouver. It was like dark and brown, and I didn't really see poverty-stricken areas, but it was just and then like really old cobblestone.
Yeah.
Like George Washington was down here and like drinking and walking these streets at night, and like
Well, it's
huge-
an older country.
It was
too.
it's deep south.
Yeah.
Or it's getting close.
Yeah.
It was just fascinating. That was a culture shock, because like I said, out here, we're spoiled here, man. That's why everyone's out there freaking out. Let's cancel this. Let's start complaining about all kinds of shit that doesn't matter because we're bored and spoiled.
Interesting stat about the riots. The riots, 37 cities have been burned in the U.S. during the Antifa Black Lives Matter riots. Well, I call them riots because that's what they are.
Well, that's what they are.
And so
There's protests, there's riots. Because
34
Stephen
of the
Crowder
cities
was-
that burned had Federal Reserve banks. That's almost all the Federal Reserve banks in the U.S. Because there's only like maybe 40. So 34 of the the cities chosen had Federal Reserve banks. So I call that a George Soros hit, because he sends Antifa to these places. Because once you wipe out a town where there's a Federal Reserve bank, it gets bought up right now. The next day, as soon as these business people left and sold their businesses, they were bought for pennies on the dollar within days. So part of this
That's
agenda.
a lot of stuff to track.
Well, but that's what they're doing. So part of the agenda is get rid of all small business and buy up all the land. Bill Gates right now owns most of the farmland in the U.S. He's bought over half the farmland in the U.S.
Really?
Yes. So he is now the biggest.
This is the type of stuff that we have to be able to track.
You
I
can
don't know how
verify this.
Yeah, I don't know how to. I don't know how to track though. See, I look at stuff like that, and I'm like, there's so much bullshit in the BLM.
Absolutely.
And I can see. You don't even have to look very far, and you can see that they've got.
What's her name? Just bought all her houses.
You've got fake Marxists, right?
They are not even a nonprofit society. They have no tax number
They're
for
a
charity.
strange form of Marxist that wants to become a new hegemony of sorts.
They're
They want to
trained
become their own-
Marxists.
Exactly, quote unquote,
yes,
trained Marxists.
yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But they seem to be very, very fond of capitalism for Marxists.
That's my point. They
It's-
can make
it's a
all the money.
ruse.
Also, you can't find out where the money goes. So I went down the money hole to find out where the Black Lives Matter money goes. So if you're donating to Black Lives Matter, it goes through two different organizations before it gets to Black Lives Matter.
Which is normal.
They take 3%, the
Yep.
next guy takes 5%, Black Lives Matter gets the rest. There's no accountability from Black Lives Matter anywhere of where the money's gone so
Yeah.
far.
So they shell it.
They said, oh,
So you can't see it.
fundraisers, honorariums for people who spoke, cab fare, hotels, but they won't even name who the people are that got it.
Mansions.
There's 4 mansions
Military
bought by the
equipment.
very owner. Every time they have a protest, vehicles pull up with every supply they could ever need, so that's all paid for.
There's
but
a lot of funding, yeah.
That's not in the numbers of funding. It's not in there. Because people try to say, Antifa's not real, it's an idea. Well, when they show up with marked vans full of people with riot gear, yeah, it's an agenda. It's not an idea. It's a planned event. So, I'm sorry.
And people were stopping them in the streets too, right? Wasn't there? I've seen.
Well,
like,
we're
grab
starting
that
to
guy.
we're starting to pot everything into the same pot, and it's impossible because you're talking about a specific event that
Yes.
got media coverage.
Yes.
Where it was a U-Haul that was brought into a protest that they opened it up, and there was what was called riot gear. Really amounted to like prop plywood. What is it? Shields and different things. There was some better stuff in there, but it was. If we were to look at incident to incident, some incidents look like they're grassrootsy. Like some
Yes.
person decided to throw in the $350 that they saved to get some crap.
Yes.
Other times, you look
It's
at the
tactical
incidents,
gear.
It's tactical, or
Yeah.
there's positioning of things like all the rocks, the piles of rocks.
Piles
that are
of
found.
rocks,
So,
weaponry,
when I say
frozen
tracking,
bottles.
When I say tracking, in order to make sense out of an allegation, personally, I'd literally, if I was to care enough to say, I want to know what they're doing. Aside from that, I think that they're up to just a bunch of bullshit.
Yeah.
And so I just stamp it a bunch of bullshit and I move on and go the other way.
Yeah.
But because if I wanted to find out what they're doing, I'd have to take each of these incidents, I'd have to break it down because I don't want to start intellectually rationalizing one incident that happened in New York with another incident that happened in Milwaukee and another in Minnesota. Like,
Well, what you have to look at is where these people travel. So they travel the country, Adam.
that's possible.
So
absolutely.
some of the same Antifa people will be at these different events because
yeah.
they
And
all
that's
get
even
on
more
planes
revealing.
and they get paid. There's also payment for them.
Well, that's just it. Is that the actor scenario, and the actor scenario seems to be, again, so broad that I'm not sure where it starts and stops. There's the imposture. What are they called?
Syndrome.
No, the
I've got that.
what's it called? It's the French started it, and it's basically where when they have a protest, they'll bring in guys that are like literally dressed like quote unquote Antifa, wearing complete black, and they are provocateurs.
Yes, that's what they are. And that's what Antifa is.
Sometimes, yeah.
But they're also violent offenders.
Sometimes.
Okay,
well,
This is
help me
just it. Is that
understand
when we're saying Antifa, when we say BLM, There's a BLM organization. There's literally people who are the recipients of money that you can see what money that they're getting in and from who that they're getting it. You can't see what they're spending it on because there's no reason why they'd tell you that.
And
But
there's offshoots of BLM. There's thousands of BLM
absolutely,
organizations. Yeah.
Absolutely. So you can find a pocket of BLM in Chicago that is a dozen people who simply believe that black people shouldn't be shot. And those people are perfectly normal.
Yeah.
And they're under the belief
That the other-
BLM is this hashtag movement of ideology where
Yes.
you say that as a white person, I'm willing to stick up for a black person.
Yes.
Well, that's innocent and normal.
Absolutely.
And, fine. And if that's really what it was,
Then it's fine.
Everybody would be on board.
Yeah.
The problem is that there's people who are using the movement to inject their own influence
And agenda.
again,
I want to know
where's
what
the
that
money coming
Okay, so
from?
what is that
That's
influence then? I want to understand that a little bit better because you guys have done your research.
Is there some over there? What are you doing?
What?
I don't know.
What?
No.
You're messing me up here. You guys have clearly done your research, and I literally just I can't go that far down the rabbit hole. It's not my interest, but I'm. What I want to like, what's their agenda then? What is like Antifa?
Who's
what
they?
Well, yeah, exactly. Well, who's they even? Who are these people?
So the people that
There's
run.
the hashtaggers, and we all want to go, "Hey, man, don't be racist." Duh.
So
Like,
if
and then
you-
there's the dudes with the agenda here.
There's people that actually believe I don't believe in fascism, so they're anti-fascist and they're trying to do a good thing and stand up for black
Okay.
people and stand up for people.
Normal
Then there's
people.
a people with an agenda.
and then what is that agenda?
The agenda is destroy every city
Why? So it's
because
just,
we're
it's just-
breaking up the U.S.
Okay, so it's anarchy.
They don't
So
even
it's anarchy.
they don't even know
Not necessarily.
what the whole agenda is. They're just following
'Cause they're
orders.
okay.
They follow
that's
orders.
the key. That's the key is they're following
And
orders.
who's the order? So who in this political system
Well,
is
this is the problem is
like? Where's this boiled? I just want to get to the. Give me the data.
you're asking for something that you're not willing to take all the ground. It's like give me the dummies version of the
Yeah,
of
give me the answer.
unified theory.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, well, you haven't learned any of the initial theories that have taken you here. So it's an
Are you
onion
calling me
skin.
dumb again, Adam?
No,
he's
I'm
saying-
just saying you
I
can't
know
ask for the answer
I know
without
what
knowing
you're
the
saying.
question.
I'm just kidding.
So-
it's a loaded
The
question.
problem that I have is that the more I look into these things is, again, I'm not finding it all. I believe I found a centralized brain,
Okay,
but
we'll do tell.
along the route there are compartmentalized things. Like
Absolutely.
the people who are the BLM rich people who just got rich off BLM, I don't think that they serve anybody but themselves.
That's right.
I think they literally want to get rich. They serve themselves.
And they're not
have
part
been
of a greater
promised
agenda.
That they're not part of a. They're not. No, their agenda is not great. Their
No.
agenda is just getting rich.
Yeah.
They've been hired, however, probably by somebody else, or they've been influenced by somebody else. Being directly hired is the easiest solution, in order to serve a function, which I can agree again, the fractioning of people, divide and conquer, right? So we've got this like massive divide and conquer program, but it's not just divide and conquer, it's divide and conquer promoted by people who are self-proclaimed Marxists.
That's right.
And they're also pushing a lot of communist ideologies,
Absolutely.
like
And the breakup of the family.
why don't you have a house? You should have a right to a house, right? Why
Yeah.
don't you have a? So there's
So take a house.
well, the take a house
Yeah.
is where it might end up getting to
It's
because
coming there now.
that's where now these are all divided ideas though. So within that Marxism then are people who have been influenced by say Chomsky like myself. And Chomsky is an anarcho-syndicalist. So
There's
you
a
get
word.
AOC and her bandwagon.
We just lost half of our
Way
audience.
progressive.
And she's all about
people.
she's all about this quasi-communism, which is actually anarchism, where the workers of a company should all be the owners of a company.
But she doesn't get it. That's not how it will end up.
Well, I think that it's a fine idea, right?
It
Like
is.
if you work at a
But
fish
let's look at
factory
communist countries right
and-
now. It didn't end up that way.
Well, because
the question is, how do you come to this? Chomsky likes it. I agree with Chomsky. She agrees with Chomsky. But what are we talking about
Okay,
here?
wait. You're saying that the person in the fish farm or the fish farm or the factory deserves a house?
No, deserves
lost
to
you.
be part of the
Part
of
ownership
the company.
of all of
So
it.
that's what we
You
were
are
arguing about the
pro-owner.
other night. I was
Yes.
like, you're fighting you.
Now the
with this.
problem is, how do you skin this cat? No, the owner's not going to give up his company.
No.
Eat the rich.
So the the Chomskyan method, and he's not telling people this, and he really should. The Chomskyan method is still within a capitalist boundary, where he believes that the bank should be providing loans and somehow to these larger groups of people
Yeah.
in order to facilitate a capitalist approach.
Yes.
With
Whereas
a bit of communism.
when you have the there's no communism involved at all there. Whereas then you have on the further left this idea of like seize the
Yes.
fish factory
Yeah.
and redistribute it to the people who work there.
Yeah.
Which is where you start to lose everybody, because if you start to have to seize assets of rich people, or like
Yeah.
Garrett said, why don't we put a cap on income? So you can only make so much, and then it's given
Because
to poor
we'd have
people.
no investments here anymore.
Because all the rich
Well, that's
people
what
would
he said. They'd all
That's
leave,
right.
but then
everything would leave.
That's why you
So
can't
essentially what
overtax
they're
them
doing.
either.
Well, then what you're saying right there is that that's what's happening anyway. All the rich people are just turning into an elite class, and the rest of us are just fucked anyway.
They're actually also investing in
Like,
the world
you're
so
saying
that
it's
we
not
have
what I'm saying.
jobs.
No, but if you told them all that there's a cap, they're going to leave anyway and go to the little island or the giant boats they're building in the
Yeah,
ocean. And go
they'll
live
figure
there.
out how to do business here without living here.
But I mean, it
That's
just
right.
seems kind of like that's just how it's going anyway. They're just taking over the world.
That's not how it's going.
Well,
Because we don't have people leaving en masse.
No.
well, not yet.
No, there's no reason to think we would.
I'm not saying that they. My biggest argument is, how is there billionaire, billions?
I explained this too, and,
And
it was a small, because we were talking about McDonald's, and I said, understanding that McDonald's makes billions a year, and then thinking that a franchise should be able to afford.
Yeah, but they're
more
limited. Those
is
franchise owners are
such a
limited by the
completely
billionaires. I disagree
Two
with
different arms of they're barely even the same body.
He's done a
right?
mass amount of research. He's very intelligent.
Not really.
I
This is
obviously,
just
I haven't
common
looked down
sense.
that rabbit hole. My argument
McDonald's-
is, though, there's a
Bullshit.
margin in there where the rich could give back a little bit. There's guaranteed. There's somewhere in there where there needs.
And this is the propaganda that we're being.
Yes.
So if I boil it all down, and I hope I'm wrong, but if I boil it down, we're basically at war.
Yes.
We're at war with China,
Yes.
and they're doing absolutely everything possible, from paying off politicians like
Yes.
your hometown. Literally, the politicians have been
And
recipients of money.
they're funding universities everywhere as well.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But like the mayor,
So they have their
the mayor
agenda.
of Coquitlam
Yeah.
complained that China's influence on the small town politics in British Columbia is getting too much, where they
What?
start buying our politicians.
Yep.
Yeah, we're
That's
talking
what's
about
happening.
like Fernie, Port Alberni,
Yes.
Coquitlam, Mission, these like little buttfuck towns that
And
mean
all of a
nothing.
sudden, an oil tanker can park in your tiny bay
But
because
the thing
legislation
is-
changed in a small town.
when you have an infinite amount of money
Coquitlam's
and you
got
have
lots of
an
those.
incredible amount of time and an incredible amount of resources, you've got to imagine how many espionage programs that we've got here in
Absolutely. And
Vancouver,
propaganda. Absolutely.
where 200,000 people probably at this point are here literally serving the PLA, or the
Absolutely.
Communist Party of China,
Yes, they are the CCP.
People's Liberation Army,
Yeah.
or the Communist Party of China.
the people.
And they're-
That's what they're
literally-
called.
Are we?
No, but that's what their
literally
army's
working
called.
for
No, I know,
Yeah.
which is just so ironic. That's
The irony's built in it. That's the irony.
People's Liberation
That's the
Army.
irony of
Right.
the left.
Yeah.
Really,
That's
that's the
really-
double speak of
There's no
Orwellian
liberation.
It's a
double
joke.
speak.
Yeah.
It's a joke.
You go to North Korea and they've got their unions there.
Yeah.
So same as China. China's got their unions and they're completely full of shit. Like,
Yeah.
they're not a union.
No.
But you're a member of the union just so that you can feel like it.
So that you can say, see, we're just like the West. We have a
Exactly.
union.
Exactly. We've got a union.
Yeah, we have
But
everything.
They line up in a roll call and salute, and then they read off their list of names and they're, yes, sir, yes, sir.
Yeah.
It's all very militant.
That
Yeah.
ain't gonna go over.
There's a great
There's
documentary.
just no
on
way.
it.
You've spoiled us way too much. You're not going to be able to pull all that over. It'll take. I just don't.
Well, the point is, it slowly gets
I'm sure-
legislated
I
into
understand, but
being.
I-
That's how it
but then it's gonna-
happens.
Then the
in a
fire's going to
slow
be on
push.
your front doorstep one day, and someone's going to go like, nah, I fucking fuck that. Some of those
It's not
guns.
the way it is, though.
I just can't see it, man. That's why.
Well, that's great. It's the first time looking at it. What's shocking is that
I just don't-
we've gotten this far.
Yeah.
And it's great that you don't see it, but you should be able to appreciate the fact that most of the people around you do, right?
No, I'm saying I don't see
It's
people
coming
just becoming
like a,
that easily salute like little fucking.
You're already seeing it, though.
You are seeing it. We're already using
There's
compelled
almost-
speech in Canada.
there's almost
we're forced to use
no
it. And we're using it.
resistance to it.
There was no resistance to the mask, no resistance to the vaccination. Vaccinations take 10 to 15 years to create. We got people taking a vaccine that has been 6 months, 10 months in the making. This is an unheard of
because people are
precedent.
trying to get
Completely
it done.
different type of vaccine too.
Yeah.
nonetheless.
I don't know. I mean, then they take over the world, that like you're saying, and then people just eventually form small groups and
They
militias
don't-
and try
they
to
don't take
fight
over,
back.
though. That's
They
the
don't
problem
have
is
to.
People voluntarily give it away to them.
Look at Venezuela. When Chavez got in, people gave their land to him because they thought he was going to be the greatest leader on earth. So people donated all their land to the government. So this is what people will do. They're like, we're going to have a new way and it's going to be the greatest
Yeah.
thing on earth.
It's a
We're
lot
not
of
going to own
promises.
anything, but we're going to be really happy. They're already setting
There
it
you
all
go.
up. Like,
the World Economic Forum.
Yes,
You
exactly.
won't own anything and you'll be happy. You
Yeah.
said that.
Well, I've seen it all.
but that's my point.
I
Like,
just
they're
think there's too
already
many of us, though,
starting
that are
with
like,
the
this doesn't seem
brainwashing.
right. There's
Not even close.
But look at the amount of people that
Really?
are on board and agree with it all.
Not even close. We're radicals.
Look
Is
how
what
many-
we are.
Yeah, we are.
We're radicals.
Well,
Yeah.
I mean, there's a lot of.
We might as well have mega hats on.
Yes, we would.
hats.
Yeah.
Make America great again. They would call Adam and I Trump supporters in another
I'm
country.
called a right wing on the internet.
Me too.
Which is like when we did our right
Yeah.
versus left. I said, how weird is it
Yeah.
that somebody like me could be considered a right winger when I'm like a traditional
You're like the
lefty?
Shiva of British Columbia.
Yeah,
Like,
I'm a fucking hippie.
yeah,
Right?
exactly.
It does seem like a lot of brainwashy people out there, right? Hence the reason, like, I don't want to get involved with stuff on even just.
But the
something as
point
simple as
is,
social media. I don't know,
we've
but-
become so inert in our own minds
And I agree
that
with
we
you.
want to know what to think. We're asking, what do we think?
I don't know
The
what.
guy on the news is saying, we need to let people know how to think about this. And you're like,
Oh, yeah.
okay, that seems like a really bad thing.
Yeah, no, people are waiting to be prompted.
They're waiting to be
prompted.
told what to
Yep.
think.
Okay, give me a
One step
margin here. So
away.
how many do you think that are out there like us, right? Having these conversations that are aware of this?
At
And how
least
many-
2%.
Really? And the rest are just like, let's give it away. Inject me and
I
take
would
me
s-
away. Let's go to the FEMA camp. So
I
there's
w-
2% of us and the rest of the world's just ready to go.
I would say
don't
now
agree.
because of the
I don't agree.
agendas.
Oh, with
because-
what?
I'd say that there's 2% of us.
Yes.
And not to single you out, but there's a lot more people who are
Stupid? Is that what you're trying to say?
Not
they're
awake.
intuitively opposed to
That's
some
what I
type
am.
of a control.
That's what I am intuitively,
But they're
intuitively
less-
opposed for sure.
They're less aware of the details.
They're
of
not
why.
informed
They're less
or
informed.
educated.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. So I think the average person is literally just less informed
Yeah.
about what's happening because they don't have the time and energy. They got to live.
Well, they're watching the
And-
news and they're believing it.
I don't watch
Is
Quite
as
often.
part of what's happening.
Yeah, but I
Which is
can't-
weird, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
but here's the thing. I was working at Richmond Airport recently. Okay, plane after plane after plane in the YVR.
Yeah.
But we can't go to any local. Like I can't go to the island.
We can't do this podcast.
No.
We're socially distancing.
Actually, we
though.
can because they put two groups, Fraser Health and Coastal Health, into one group. So I can go from Vancouver to Hope right now.
Really?
I can't go past Hope, and
You live in
neither can
Hope?
you. No, I live in Maple Ridge.
Oh, okay.
But our jurisdiction right
Yeah,
now
yeah,
is
yeah.
Vancouver to Hope.
No, I know, but
Yeah.
I don't think that you're allowed to be here in my apartment.
Oh no,
You get a
probably
$2,500
not. Probably
fine.
not. Yeah, 575 in a vehicle.
Well, the
so
knock's
yeah,
coming. This is
Yeah.
good thing. This isn't live, suckers.
Yeah.
If one of my neighbors heard us or something like
Okay,
that.
They
so
could
then
report us,
But like,
yeah.
what about the planes coming in and out then? So that's cool.
Oh no, I think it's bullshit. It boils my blood that
I know they should
the
have shut it
first
down.
thing they didn't do is shut down. The
Me
airport.
too. That would have changed it
Because
all. Shut down the world's
Everybody
airports.
in Canada, we need what's in Canada. If you need a plane coming in to bring in stuff, like if I see a plane coming in and it's 100% cargo, and even if I don't know it, like, keep the cargo coming as much as you can.
Yeah.
But let's all the special people that do business and all over the world, you could fucking do Zoom conferences. I don't want anybody.
Any one of
Zoom is
all of that
amazing.
could have been done online. Every bit of
That's
it.
just it.
Zoom is
There's
huge.
no reason for a
Zoom-
person to physically come to this country.
No, No. And anybody who
there's been a lot-
leaves,
and
who
Zoom's
gets
all over the
stuck,
place. Zoom
I have
stocks
no...
went-
I'm sorry, you
Yeah.
chose to leave. I don't feel sorry for you.
No, I think they should have to stay wherever they
You
went.
stay in that country. You
Yep.
chose to leave during COVID. You just fucking
Yeah.
stay
Well,
there.
New Zealand's doing fine, but like now, New Zealand apparently is doing good. Some parts of the world are fine. Well, like New York, that's mind-boggling. Like I saw on Instagram on an unnamed musician.
New Zealand had some of the harshest lockdowns on earth. So did the UK. So did Australia.
Australia.
Yeah.
They were bursting into people's homes and arresting them. It was the worst.
But now they're back to normal.
No, they're
not
back
because
to
of
normal.
that.
They're being rewarded for
for being
publicity,
for
yeah.
being locked down so
Yeah.
They're
hard.
being rewarded.
I personally
They're
think
getting
so.
a little bit of
and
reward.
doesn't it feel like right now we're being punished here in BC? That's
Like
what
America's being rewarded for their making their decisions
It feels
that
like
they've
we're
made
being
recently.
punished right now. They just shut down all the businesses. Like you cannot eat inside.
We know.
It really intuitively feels like
Mm-hmm.
their way of being like, yeah, you spoil little fucks. You want to fuck around? Businesses are shut. You can't leave. It's a pseudo lockdown. That's what it feels like.
What surprises
right?
me
Well, it is. We're on a pseudo lockdown right now. Huh?
is how many
That-
people comply.
We're not.
If I had a restaurant, I wouldn't comply.
oh, you'd be shut down.
I would probably not comply either.
And I would just say, come
I'll just
until
have
they
to
come
face it because
until they drag me out of my door. I'm
Yeah.
not complying.
Yeah.
Well, that's what they're doing. People are filming it.
I would comply given reasonable circumstances.
Yes.
Like if I looked around and went, okay, I think everybody's doing what they can do, so now I will do what I can do. But yeah, let's see the first Air Canada plane coming in and be like, fuck it, I'm opening.
Exactly.
Because if they can,
It's
so can I.
hypocritical.
And there's no reason
Yeah.
why
And if you're
Costco and
listening to
Walmart
this,
and
Why
we
can
have
all
been
these
watching-
big box stores be open
McDonald's
and
and-
the little guys get nothing?
Yeah.
That's not fair.
Yeah.
That's,
Like,
the
no,
kind-
it's
that's an
ridiculous.
agenda. That's an agenda.
That's
It
what's
is.
very weird. Exactly.
is.
And that, how could you not feel that way? Even if I don't watch the news, I'm not paying attention too much because it's so it's just too much to take in. I don't know who to believe. But
Yeah.
just seeing my business go into Jim's Pizza now, they've done all these restorations. It's gorgeous in there now. Go to Jim's Pizza and order your pizza, please.
If I can give you any advice, stop watching mainstream news.
I don't watch any
Don't
news.
watch the news.
I go in my mom's house. She turns
that's
it off now
brainwashing.
because she's like, "Oh my god!"
I
Like,
watch it all. I like to watch
My
it
point
all.
or watch it all.
Watch the opposite of what you're looking
But
for.
what my
Exactly.
point is, though, is that we were fine. They were having people in there eating. Everything was okay. They shut down for a quick sec to do the renovations.
Mm-hmm.
And then all of a sudden, boom, you're not allowed to have people in the restaurant anymore.
That's right.
I mean, it just, how can you not feel like you're being punished? Or there's some weird agenda. You're like,
I just
that's
don't. I just
fucked.
don't see how that really even works. Like I'm my jaw is still on the ground.
I know.
That anybody can say.
We can go outside. You can eat outside the restaurant.
That, yeah, but that anybody can say, given the circumstances that we're in, that you cannot have people in your restaurant. Like I don't know where say Canada is weird because we're the remnant of a monarchy.
Yeah.
And we're kind of like a bullshit democracy
Yes.
where democracy as long as they
Yes.
it's like
long as they say-
everybody has rights in the States, everybody here has we're permissed, right? We've got privileges.
Yeah.
So you've got the privileges of owning a business and staying open and everything like that, and that's very obvious with COVID. If it was the Spanish flu, I don't think you'd have this argument because people would be, you'd be like, maybe the government would try to force people to stay open,
Right.
right? At that
Yeah.
point, maybe
Yeah.
it'd be like, you're a grocery store, you have
We
to
need
stay
you,
open.
yeah.
We need you.
Yeah.
So now you have to do it. That would be the greater threat at that point.
Yes.
Because now and people would be like, well, what are you literally telling me that the government can tell me that I have to work? Like
Yeah.
that would be a really squirrely situation.
Yeah.
But to tell you that you can't work is almost equally as weird. And then it gets down to circumstance. Like if this was the Spanish flu, would I be arguing? No.
Yeah.
But if I can look at the data, say, what was it? I don't know, June of 2020,
Right.
when the data started really
Rolling in, yeah.
and it started becoming more consistent.
Yeah.
Where you're like, okay, this isn't just a outlier data. This
Yeah.
is starting to become real data.
This is the data.
And then it's like, okay, we can see that people below 65 have a reasonably high survival rate. Even people under 75, like people between 65 and 75 even seem to have a reasonably high survival rate. Above 75, it starts to really peter.
Yeah. And let's
So-
talk about obesity and comorbidities, because that was most of the people who are dying have those.
Yeah, then the comorbidities is tricky because once you get COVID, you actually get a bunch
I
of
know,
comorbidities
I know.
immediately after.
But you also, there's two different things. There's died with COVID, died of COVID.
Yeah.
More people died with COVID than of COVID.
Yeah.
Especially obesity and comorbidity. People that had cancer, had heart disease, were already in hospital with other illnesses.
Well, absolutely.
Yeah.
That's just it.
Yeah.
It's like pneumonia. Pneumonia takes almost all old people.
Well, let's say you
Roll
just
the dice
die
on
of
what
it
caused
because
it.
that's what you die of when you're
Yeah.
old.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, most people that die of the flu actually die of pneumonia.
That's right.
So
that's right.
It's the cause of death. But
yeah.
it's the flu, but it's not,
Yeah.
Once it became clear that the concerns were the nursing homes and the elderly assisted living and those types of areas, first of all, it's strange that they never really started controlling them or even reducing the transmission between them. So you had
Exactly.
people going from one to the other to
That's
the other.
right. That's right.
And that was fine for whatever reason. Meanwhile, everybody else has to go bankrupt or go on
That's
CERB
right.
and
When we could protect the ones who are vulnerable.
To protect the ones
If
who are
it's the
vulnerable.
elderly, the obese, and the unhealthy,
Mm-hmm.
then what's wrong with us? Like, we're adults.
Mm-hmm.
We can do what we have to do to protect ourselves, and we can keep those people protected. But to shut down a complete economy of the world, that's an agenda. That's not about an illness.
well, of course, yeah.
Yeah.
If it was about an illness, it would be about an illness.
Exactly. And it wouldn't be for 2 years.
Spanish flu
It was 2 years.
knocked out the world.
Yeah.
We have calculus because of the bubonic plague.
Yes.
That's
Yeah.
Buddy during the bubonic plague invented calculus.
Okay.
So he was bored sitting
Yeah.
at home. I think it was the plague.
I think so
the
too.
Black Plague.
I think it was.
Do you, do you know some interesting
might have
facts
been
with the Black Plague though? It kept coming back. Once it went away, it kept coming
Still
back.
here, dude.
No, but it
Always.
came back ruthlessly every 10 years and stayed and just it was like it kept dragging on.
Well, it kind of
and
became Ebola.
right.
But it's constantly here. Like the
Yeah.
Black Plague, there's 20 cases in Asia every year. There's
Yeah.
5 cases in fucking the U.S. every year. There's
Yeah.
2 cases in Canada every year.
Yeah.
It's a bacteria that's still here.
Yeah.
We just have antibiotics.
We know how to get rid of it, yeah.
We have antibiotics.
Yeah.
But-
Antivirals
yeah.
are more
How
difficult.
long did the Black
Yeah.
Plague last? It lasted like 10 years though. Like the ruthless plague, like the ground, like the.
Black Plague was
a long
I
time,
think it was
man.
like 2 years that it
No. The Black
Okay.
Plague was like 10 years, man.
was it.
Oh yeah. The Spanish flu was 2 years.
Okay.
The Black Plague went on for like 10. It was quite a while, and then then it went away, and then like I said, it kept coming back every couple years for like.
Do you know they came
It's
up
pretty
with
wild. What?
they
Well,
came up with an
it
oil.
selected itself.
The grave robbers of the Black Plague made this thieves oil. So it was like eucalyptus, cloves, lemon, and a couple other
Is that where
herbs.
the hippie thieves oil?
Yeah,
name comes
so
from?
thieves oil is from that oil. So they
Okay.
would put that on their bodies, and they could rob the dead corpses of the like in expensive homes of the people who died of the bubonic plague,
'Cause they're just
and they
done.
wouldn't die. So they
What?
were
'Cause they-
because this thieves oil kept them healthy. So I think the thieves oil would work well for the virus too.
So would Lysol.
Yeah.
Never
Inject
know.
Lysol.
Never know. It's interesting because there's obviously some sort of an aromatic,
That worked.
volatile
How
compound.
did they figure that out?
From the evaporate. or
Yes.
whatever.
How would
Yes.
they figure that out? That's what's
Yeah, I've got a
interesting.
lot of cool stuff like that because I've got a fragrance company.
Oh,
right?
okay.
So I make
Yeah, we're sponsored
Awesome.
by Adam's Fragrance.
What's your company?
Kimia Attar. is the name.
Okay, you'll have to send me some info on that.
Yeah, it's
Beard oil is pretty good, actually.
Yeah, I made a bunch of different stuff: beard oil, leave-in hair conditioner,
Excellent.
creams.
Oh, nice.
Under eye oil for
Okay.
women,
Serum, yeah.
makeup primer.
Wow.
A bunch of different stuff. Yeah, but I've got a lot of cool stuff. Like I've got all the ingredients that are
Yeah.
in thieves oil.
Yeah.
It's yeah. I mean, I wouldn't try it against a virus or anything like that.
Right.
Absolutely, but there's a lot of properties of the aromatics, like the ceterol or the citronol,
Yeah.
or the linalool.
Right.
whatever shit
Pronounce
like
it, yeah.
Yeah, that are antibiotic
Yes,
guaranteed.
yes.
Because
Yeah.
even just pure oil, like
Well, I work with a
almost
lot of
any
essential
pure essential
oils,
oil will
and
kill a
a
bacteria.
lot of them are antibacterial.
Yeah,
A
absolutely.
lot of
Do you think
essential
they
oils.
work? Do they work?
I use them for my cancer treatment, and I swear by them. Yeah. Yeah.
Well, it's a mechanical, physical. There's mechanical. It's like desiccation or something like that. So if you apply a desiccant
Yes.
to a microbe,
It's going to get rid of
So-
it.
because
Yeah.
it's the way it does. Or a soap. You
Exactly.
add soap to a virus or a bacteria.
You're gonna kill it.
You're going to kill it
Yeah.
because it's literally driving itself
It's washing your
into
hands
the
off.
That's right.
cell membrane, and
Yeah.
it's not a magic. It's just physical science, right?
Yeah.
So this is a good segue into
Oh.
your last, like into your battle.
My cancer?
Yeah.
Yeah, so I have been alternatively working with cancer for 5 years.
5 years.
So I
ago
was
you were
diagnosed in 2016
Okay.
with breast cancer on my left breast, and I went to the cancer clinic where I felt like I was treated like a cow in a gown, and they were all about finding out what kind of cancer it was. They needed to know exactly what type. They wanted to do biopsies. And when I left there, I said to my husband, Mark, I'm never going back, and I'm going to get a naturopath. So I found a naturopath, and I've been working for 5 years. And I got to the point in 3 years with my naturopath, and I was using acupuncture and food supplements and food diet mostly. And I went on the Rick Simpson pot oil program. So I take 1,000 milligrams a day of that. It took me 8 months to build up that program because you can't physically work or drive because you're impaired. So
Phoenix Tears.
yeah, so as I got up to that program, after 8 months, I was able to drive and work again. So I went back to work, started driving. And after 3 years, my tumor kept growing and getting harder. And my naturopath became frightened to work with me, so she canceled me. She said, I can no
really?
longer work with you. Then I spent a year just milling around, depressed, thinking I was going to die, and thinking, I don't know who's going to work with me because how's this going to work? Because naturopaths are tens of thousands of dollars, which I had already spent. And so I was online looking at COVID when it came out, and I found a naturopath who was completely didn't believe that there was a COVID or a virus. She was talking about these Koch postulates, which I'll send you some info on. So in the Koch postulate, a virus isn't real. It was actually invented when they invented the first microscope because they needed something to stick into the germ microbe.
Gotcha.
So they invented these things. They're not actually viruses. So anyways, she worked this all out, and she had so much information. I was so impressed. I sent her a DM and I said, would you be willing to work with me in my cancer? And she said yes. So she charged me $200 and sent me a 12-page extensive program to do. And it was so extensive, I couldn't even do it. Like, I couldn't even name some of these herbs and stuff. So I did that for about a year, and it was a lot of poultices on the breast and changing them 3 times a day and using all kinds of herbs, different things. And then I kind of got tired of that. I lost my momentum because you build up to all these things, you lose your momentum, you get in pain, you go downhill again. Then I went to a native spiritual healer, and she got me on some herbal teas that she picks herself. And I had been looking for Pacific Yew for 5 years. It's what they make chemotherapy out of. But the Canadian government has almost demolished the stands because when the Cancer Society makes chemotherapy from a yew tree, it takes 20 yew trees to make chemotherapy for one person. But when native people use it, one tree cures 20 people. So it's the opposite. So I take the needles of the tree. They're harvested in winter when all of the medicine is in the leaves, and in the summer it goes back into the tree. So native people understand these things about plant medicine. So this woman who is a spiritual teacher got me on her herbs. I'm doing well. I have a few setbacks here and there. I still have cancer quite a bit. As far as I saw a medical doctor once in my whole 5 years, and he basically said last 3 months ago that my cancer has spread to my lungs, to my lymph, to everywhere.
You're not smoking anymore either, right?
I smoke organic tobacco that someone grew for me with mullein and a little bit of pot in it.
But you're not.
No, I don't smoke cigarettes. So I've been going through this program, and now I'm also seeing a guy who does massage therapy on me, and he does qigong therapy on my breast. And last time he did it, I came home and it bled out like for 10 minutes. I couldn't stop it from bleeding because it's just a big open wound right now that's sort of eaten away at me, and it's risen up on my body. So it's quite alarming to people when they see it. When doctors look at it, they think I'm nuts because they've never seen anyone do this. So I'm a bit of an experiment because no one's ever gone to this level without traditional treatments. So I'm proving that I've lived 5 years with cancer, and it's gotten worse.
You look healthy.
I don't look healthy, but it doesn't matter. The point is, I'm living with cancer. And so I thought I may be able to live for the rest of my life with cancer for 20 years, for 30 years, because you can stop the stages, and it's very much a phase program. Cancer, one day you feel it and you're like, it's in all my lymph, I feel it. The next day it might not be there because somehow it phases out again. So
It deactivates.
it deactivates and it becomes a dead cell again.
Yeah.
Or it becomes apoptosis where the thing just exploded and it's gone.
Yeah.
Because as soon as I
Just
started
dormant or
the
something.
tea, I could feel the cancer sort of in my neck, down my arm, and that's all gone now. Like there's no lymph now. It's still in my breast. I can still sort of feel it in my lungs, but I literally feel it falling out of my body. Now, sometimes I get really discouraged. I'm like, I'm going to die tomorrow. Because you have, I call it Western fear. So Western fear is like, people will say to you, oh yeah, no, my aunt had cancer. She went alternative she lived 2 years. Yeah, you'll live 2 years. So these things kind of stick in your brain. So I'm looking for the person who says, alternative treatment lasts 50 years and sort of supplant that inside of myself. So I have to tell myself a certain amount of lies and just make up things. People have lived through all of this, but I have no research.
And that's
You have
fine.
to have a
I'm flying
positive
blind.
Even,
Yeah.
mental attitude.
Even a full character is fine.
Yeah.
Just make up a character.
I do.
The
Yeah.
thing is that before the first person climbed Mount Everest,
Yeah.
it was impossible.
Yeah.
It was an impossible task.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Once
That's right.
the first person did it, it was
That's
like
right.
everybody's
There's a
like,
lot of stuff
"Fuck it,
like
I'm
that.
doing it."
Even the first mile that was
Yeah.
broken. Records are breaking. That's what
Absolutely.
that's what I'm trying to go on with you too. The whole positive metal attitude movement and a lot of that stuff. It sounds like naive, childish bullshit, but you can literally, with just almost a delusional sense.
Yeah.
of-
Until you make it.
Yeah, exactly.
Quite literally.
You can.
And there's
yeah.
no science there to prove that at all.
Yeah, that's
I mean, if
right.
you listen even just to a lot of Joe Rogan's friends, Aubrey Marcus talks about this a lot.
Yeah.
There is a delusional amount of optimism that might just get you there.
It is a fake it till you make it.
It's
Absolutely.
very real.
Yeah,
And what I
yeah.
meant by saying that you look healthy,
Yeah.
yes, obviously you've lost weight, obviously you're
Yes.
healthy, but you look.
But I don't look like I'm dying.
Not at all.
Yeah.
You have a lot of
Yeah.
life in you.
I do.
And your
yeah.
eyes
I
are sparkling.
do.
Like
yeah.
so that's
I'm
what I
still
meant.
alive,
Like we
yeah.
obviously, yeah. But
Yeah.
It's a weird
a
phenomenon.
lot
It
of
is.
fight in you.
It is.
There's a lot of fight in you. There's a
It
lot
is.
of fire still. So that's why
Yeah.
I think it's amazing.
But people visit me, like my brother and his girlfriend just came to visit me the other day, and they're like, "You're so spiritual now," and I'm like, "What do you mean?"
Now?
now,
And I'm like, they're like, "Yeah, the closer you get to death, the more spiritual you are." And I'm like, "Well, what about babies? They're just starting, and they're pretty spiritual
they're
beings.
amazing. yeah.
Like, so it's only
That's just
exit
it.
or entrance.
Yeah, that's just it. Is that it's
There's like-
exit
You don't
and
get to
entrance.
be anything in the middle.
Ooh, that would be spooky if suddenly if people got really spiritual, and they're like, 55 and suddenly they get super spiritual and you'd be like, you better be careful, buddy.
You're gonna die tomorrow.
You're probably gonna, yeah. You're
probably gonna pass away. Yeah.
We've been very
You're,
spiritual.
Yeah.
you're very spiritual.
We've been
Yeah.
very spiritual since day one.
That
Yeah.
only happens.
That's one awesome thing about growing up in your household. That was almost like if you're not spiritual, you're not welcome here. So you might.
Well, let's just say we had our spirituality had a lot of swearing and screaming attached to
but
Yeah.
whatever. I
it.
mean,
Adam knows.
Yeah.
And that note, can we end our podcast
you want to end it?
pretty soon? Yeah,
Yeah.
Oh, okay,
Yeah.
absolutely.
I'm.
Starting to feel.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, it's been great. It's been a good. We can always have you back as well.
Sure, I'd love to come back sometime.
Faux show.
Yeah.
Faux show.
Yeah, I really enjoyed this, you guys. It was intense and good. And
Nice
I haven't
catch up.
seen you, Adam, for so long. It was really good to be with you here today. Thank
I don't
you.
even know. As my girlfriend was asking, I was
Thank
like, I don't
you.
know. It was like
10 years or more.
10, 12
Yeah.
years, something.
Yeah, because Mark
Which
and
to
I were
me
just
is-
together.
is such
It just
a
went so
snap.
fast.
Yeah.
It went so
I
fast.
don't see people in 7 years. And then I look at them
Exactly.
and I just continue the conversation that I left off.
Yeah,
You know, I'm not a person for like, oh, hi. And
yeah.
I just continue the same conversation because to me, I don't see very many people.
Yeah, I'm
At
the
all.
same. I don't either. I'm sequestered quite a bit.
Did
Yeah.
you have any notes you wanted to touch
No,
on?
I felt like that was good. I really enjoyed the first half of just talking about what was happening in the world.
Yeah.
That just seemed more important to me.
If you want to keep going there, we can go back to that.
No,
Do you
I'm
have any
good.
thoughts?
I'm absolutely good. I feel like I'm good.
Join us next time for Consciousness.